Kristin Phillips-Hill, State Senator in the 28th District, and I am here in Glen Rock at the Glen Rock Carolers Museum at Trinity United Church of Christ. Just a keynote, the museum will be moving down onto the square to the old People's Bank building in just a few short months. But I'm so pleased to join with John Nicklow, the historian of the Glen Rock Carolers, as well as Daryl Engler, who heads up the Carolers. And John, it's a rich part of York County history, this incredible 175-year tradition.
Right.
So share with us a little bit about how it started. York County is predominantly settled by people who came here from Germany.
From Germany.
But Glen Rock wasn't.
Well, it was before Glen Rock became a town as it's known today, was settled with a lot of the German descendants here. And William Heathcote came into town, found it was available. He thought the surroundings looked a lot like his homeland over in Micklehurst area of England, Yorkshire. And the land became available. He bought the land. He started selling out lots of the land, different acreages. And by that time, he was starting his woolen mill, which was what his profession was over in England, and summoned some of his relatives to come in and help him run the woolen mill. And they came here. The legend has it they were homesick for their ways of doing Christmas in England, which wasn't done much over here. And in 1848, it all came to being, and it's been going on for, like you said, 175 years.
So most Americans, most York Countyans, when we celebrate Christmas, it's more of a German-based celebration. Those carols that we all sang as children and are familiar to us are predominantly, they came out of Germany.
They did.
English carols don't sound quite the same.
They're a little bit different. And if you are not from the Glen Rock area or anything, or the surrounding area, Southern York County part, you would not recognize at least the early carols. Now, we do have a few in there that are somewhat familiar, but for the most part, no, you would not recognize the carols as Christmas carols, But if you lived in the area within the last 175 years, you would probably recognize.
Indeed. Well, and you've documented this rich 175-year history right here, and it really hasn't changed. Caped jackets, top hats,
correct.
Traditional instruments.
Right. Yeah, the bassoon, as a matter of fact, was the bassoon that was used in 1848 by James Heathcote. He, along with 4 other carolers who we have over there on the wall there, and we can take a look at that. This is the bassoon that he carried around to accompany the singers, the 4 singers.
And you have persevered through bad weather.
Oh, yeah.
Many wars, from the Civil War,
sadly,
the Persian Gulf Wars, 2 global pandemics.
Yes.
And nothing stops the Glen Rock Carolers.
Nope, we had the 1 year where it was closed, where we had one gentleman go out and carry on the tradition to keep it going. Yeah, so we haven't missed a year since 1848.
Talk to us a little bit about what people can see if they come to the museum.
Well, photographs, pieces of memorabilia, souvenirs that were made somewhat in limited quantities, such as the plate and the ceramic hat that's in there. They were made by a lady by the name of Emma Hine, who was related to one of our longtime carolers, Charles Erman. And those are very limited in quantity because she only made a few of them and gave them mostly to relatives who were also members of the carolers.
So if you're out yard sailing or going to a local country auction here, these are hot commodities to find?
They would be very hard to find. They would be very hard to come by. They might be out there, but they'd be very hard to come by. I would venture to say she probably made no more than maybe a dozen.
So you've even recorded some records?
Yes, yes. We've had recordings as early as back as 1962, which is, it would be this one here, 1962. And at first this was made available only to members of the carolers. Then the following year, I believe it was, that they decided to produce it for other folks in the town and in the area. And then we came with, this was probably the next one, in '74, the unique red disc that they used, that we were able to get it produced in red. And also there were some green ones, but they weren't as mass produced as the red ones. So that's a rare item to find if you're out auctioning and flea marketing and whatever. So through the years, you know, you can see we went from discs, phonographs, to cassettes, to the CDs, and this would be our latest CD that was done in 2017.
Well, this is incredible. So it starts every Christmas Eve. You assemble at the Lutheran Church, is that correct?
Yes, they've been our concert hall since, I believe it's the year 2000 is when we started down there at the Lutheran Church. They were the church that had the biggest, the ability to hold the crowd that comes to hear us. We're grateful for. So they opened up their doors to us, and very grateful for that. We practice here at Trinity.
Okay.
We have our practices, which starts the first Sunday in November. We start our rehearsals. So, yeah.
And how long have you caroled?
I've been doing it for 41 years. For 41 years. I'm just a baby compared to some of the guys here, but yeah, 41 years I've been caroling.
And it's a family tradition?
My brother and I, we are the only two in our family that sing with the carolers. Yeah, he came in about the same time as I did.
So warm up at the Lutheran Church, and then you move to
the signal light. Yeah, the signal light. That's where we begin at the stroke of midnight. Darrell directs the trumpeter, Ed Bailey, to sound out the first note, and that's it. Then we take off from there.
It's a long evening.
It's a long evening. Some more so than others, even though we're out basically the same amount of time. But when the weather is bad, we're still out there singing away. So some nights do seem a little bit longer than others. Yes,
Can only imagine. And the uniform has remained the same pretty much over the years.
It's evolved. It's evolved. 1934 is when we adopted the orange knit hat with the black stripes on it. Now this is what the singers would have worn.
Okay.
The instrument players would have worn the reverse of this. It would have been a black cap with orange stripes on it. We haven't been able to locate one of them. There's nothing on it that designates it as a caroler's hat. So if it was laying in the closet or the house and they passed away and they cleaned out, the chances are it got tossed. But we haven't been able to come across the black one.
And so then it evolved to red and black buffalo plaid.
Yeah, they did that in 1948 is when they came up with the red and black plaid hat, along with it's a dark blue, looks black, but it's a dark blue cape. And we found a photograph of when they got the uniforms and the hats and everything, and we're handing them out to the carolers at the practice.
So at what point did we evolve to that traditional top hat that I think of as being an iconic part of your uniform?
Right. That's when they did this in 1950. Is when they came up with the black high hat, and they just dressed up the cape a little bit with a navy scarf and white gloves and things like that. And so they dressed it up a little bit. And then in 1966, what most people would see us in now would have been the gray top hats that we wear.
So 56 years of this traditional hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Very good.
And then in 1972, we went from the dark navy capes to the woolen, worsted wool capes.
Kind of appropriate. Probably something that may have been made in that woolen mill right here in Glen Rock back in the day.
Or that, yeah, to that style.
Yeah.
To this style, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that William
This is
Heathcote started.
fantastic.
Yes. But they came out with 4 different styles here, which we believe it to be designated to the 4 carolers that started.
Okay.
Is one of the stories that came out, the 4 different carol singers, or the 4 different songs that we first sang. We've heard both versions. It was for the 4 carolers, for the 4 songs that that they brought. So
But if you come this winter, this Christmas Eve,
Correct.
to see you perform, and you see you on the square, this is what you will be wearing.
If you are a caped member
Yes.
of the carolers, which there are 50 caped members, and I believe it's 13 caped life members, then those are members who have sung with the group for 50 years, for 50 Christmases, and we designated them as life members. And that way, because we had members that were getting up there in age, and they decided, well, we better hang it up, because we want to make room for some of the younger people who are on the associate list to come in. That we wanted a way that they wouldn't have to step away from the organization just because they're getting up there and they might not be able to make the whole round. So we came up with a lifetime membership for those who have sung over 50 Christmases, and then that opens a spot for associate members to come into the organization as a caped member. And normally the associates would wear the older capes, and then they would go into these then once they're a caped member.
Good.
And the scarves that you see, we have usually 4 different color variations, and they were made all by the local ladies here in the town at the time in 1972.
We're now here with Daryl, the musical director of the Glen Rock Carolers, the man who makes the music happen. Tell us a little bit about how you prepare for Christmas Eve.
We don't meet throughout the year until the first Sunday night in November. And the first Sunday night in November and every Sunday night from there on through Christmas Eve, we meet and have a 1-hour rehearsal and business meeting and conduct our business. And then Christmas morning, when we're finished singing, we disappear for another 10 months. And we won't see each other again until the first Sunday night in November.
Now, how long have you been caroling?
I'm a caroler for 53 years, but this year will be my 40th year as the musical director.
That's an incredible commitment. Think about how many families have been impacted by
Right.
this tradition. So you begin warming up at the Lutheran Church.
At the Lutheran Church, 10:45 p.m. on December the 24th. And we sing all of our songs to the congregation that gathers there, several hundred people. We have a little bit of a history. We don't have a lot of time, so I can't do the 30-hour version. But I give a little bit of the history and what's special about that particular year. So last year, the thing that was special was it was our 175th anniversary. We opened the museum, and we had our 3rd trip to England to represent Glen Rock in the Festival of Village Carols in Sheffield. So those were the special things. Now for 2023, I'll have to come up with something else that's special about 2023. I don't know what it is yet.
Well, I'm sure there will be something very special that you can share with everyone. So you move to the signal light.
Right, and we start at the stroke of midnight. So you'll see some very famous pictures of me counting down the seconds until midnight, which I tune the watch to National Bureau of Standards so I know when Christmas actually begins. And at the stroke of midnight, we begin singing the Old English carols, and we walk for 7 hours and finish at the monument as the sun comes up, Christmas morning.
Traditional route?
There are 4 routes that we use, and being a mathematician, it used to be everyone asked, what's the route this year? And then someone would have to tell them which street is first. I put a formula to it so that all you have to know is what the formula is. That's on our website, glenrockcarolers.org, and there's a place that says route, and it'll tell you what the formula is. You divide the year by 4, take the remainder, and the remainder will be either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0. And it'll tell you what the street is. So if you picture the signal light has 4 streets coming into it.
Correct.
4 separate named streets: Main Street, Hanover Street, Manchester Street, Baltimore Street. So each one of the 4 years we start and go out a different street. But if you follow that street around and go a figure 8 throughout the night, you'll get all the other 4 streets. So if I say Manchester Street is first, then everybody knows it's Manchester Street, Hanover Street, Baltimore Street, Church Street. If I say Church Street is first, you know it's Church Street, Baltimore Street, Hanover Street, Manchester Street. So there are the 4 routes. And every 4 years, we come by your place approximately the same time.
So what does it look like from your perspective on Christmas Eve? You have potentially, well, you could have up to 129 individuals out caroling with you. How many musicians?
We have 2 trumpets and 2 trombones now. Throughout the years, we started with the bassoon, and then we had the cello, we had a violin, saxophone, flute. 2 years, we had a glockenspiel. 1938 and 39, I believe we had a glockenspiel, which didn't work real well. But now we've settled on 2 trumpets and 2 trombones. And since we sing 2 verses for each song, the one plays the first verse and the one plays the second verse. So the trumpets play the lead or the melody, the trombones play the bass part, and we have a high tenor that doesn't need any help.
Okay then. So that is what a person who decides they want to come out and see what this is all about can expect.
That's what they can expect. And someday I will get the picture that I want, which is a picture from a drone flying above the signal light in Glen Rock and looking down at what it is, because I'm imagining that it looks something like Times Square in New York City on New Year's Eve.
Right here in Glen Rock.
Right here in Glen Rock. It's us in the middle. You were here. Now,
Oh, I've been here.
we're in the middle of the road and take up probably the entire intersection. And then all 4 streets in both directions, 20, 30, 40, 50 people deep, are shoulder-to-shoulder people.
It was.
So it would look something like that.
It was quite happening. And I have to tell you, I don't think I've seen that many people assembled in any one place anywhere in York County.
Christ the Lord is born today. Peace on earth is bringing.
Well, Daryl and John, this is such a significant accomplishment to carry on a really important and meaningful tradition to this community. And so I'm honored to be able to present you a Senate of Pennsylvania citation. And I will share with you that it says, whereas the Senate of Pennsylvania takes great pride in recognizing those organizations which, through adherence to the highest standards of service, contribute in a meaningful way toward a better and more productive society. And whereas the Glen Rock Carolers are celebrating the momentous occasion of its 175th anniversary, and whereas established by a group of English immigrants in 1848, the Glen Rock Carolers is comprised of community members who meet annually to sing in the streets of Glen Rock from midnight on Christmas Eve until dawn on Christmas Day. The group also travels to local nursing homes during the months of November and December to sing its catalog of English Christmas carols, as well as Silent Night. And in 2002, 2012, and 2022, it traveled to England to compete in the Festival of Village Carols. Throughout its history, the Glen Rock Carolers has contributed to the enrichment and enjoyment of countless citizens, reflecting the true nature of artistic integrity and holiday spirit. And now, therefore, the Senate of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania congratulates the Glen Rock Carolers upon its richly deserved recognition, extends warmest wishes for a future replete with ever-increasing success, and many, many, many more years of Merry Christmas throughout the streets of Glen Rock. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. John?
Yes. You are honored to present it to us. We are honored to receive it.
Thank you.
We are honored to receive it.
We're all
Thank
very
you.
grateful for you and for the carolers and the continued tradition, making us the oldest English caroling group in the United States.
We think so.
We haven't found
We
anybody
haven't
to dispute
found
that.
any challengers yet.